Yeah. Do you have a table? All right, we're going to get your table set up. So this is we talk about sovereignty with Bitcoin a lot. This talk I think is going to touch on data sovereignty for Bitcoiners and all of the other services you use in your life as well, right?
And James has already done some work building a sort of decentralized data and even potentially machine learning framework systems. So.
And he's using Ubuntu. Atta boy, I love it.
Yeah. How do you like the new GNOME desktop, James?
James, you're our first Ubuntu presenter. Well done, well done. He's sovereign with his operating system too. I love it. I love it. All right, we'll give them a minute to set up. Get yourself settled. When you're done, if you have questions, remember to ask for a mic. Just wait. And try to avoid standing in the back, please. Thank you.
Okay,
and let's give James a nice warm welcome to the Galoy stage.
Thank you very much for that. Nope. Thank you very much. So sovereign data, Francis said if you're not a sovereign individual or a true Bitcoiner, if you don't own your own custody of your keys, I'm extending that argument. Can you really be a sovereign individual if you just rely on your Bitcoins? There's many more aspects to your life. So there will be 3 parts to talk, a little bit of introduction, commentary on what I see happening in the world. And then the sovereign stack, which is based on 15 years of practical experience, and I'll share what I think the solution might look. And then I want to show you when you've actually got your data, the exciting new things you can do, and you're free to do with it. So as soon as I've been able to build a website, my identity has been Aboyne James, and Aboyne James is Aboyne is a little community in Aberdeenshire in Scotland. And I was trying to think of a connection or a contribution that Scotland had made to Bitcoin. And I could only think the Genesis block date, courtesy of Royal Bank of Scotland and its demise and its subsequent bailout by the UK government. But earlier this year, I actually entered my 6th decade of life. So I suppose that means I'm getting older. But also, I think I've been accumulating wisdom. And that wisdom's come from being, for some reason, an early adopter, entrepreneur, hacker through the dot-com era, the Web 2 era, the data web era, IoT, Bitcoin, and now artificial intelligence. So these projects like Web 2 started, it wasn't even called Web 2 when I arrived in Silicon Valley. And there was these on conferences, we were getting into OpenID, OAuth, RSS, the open source content management. But then looking forward a decade, or even today, we have these tech giants that took all these creative good ideas and centralized them with the fiat money and the ad-driven model. So I come here with a bit of intrepidation. I know we've had a couple of other AI talks that have flagged up the risk. Yeah, I think we're very, very close to an open prison society. And so I haven't been out in the Bitcoin community for 5 years, but I felt compelled to come halfway around the world to tell this message today. So for some reason, in 2008, I also launched my own open source project. It was called Lifestyle Linking. And this was inspired by WordPress. We had the ability to host our own content, but then there was no way to search everyone else's except through the public large search engines. So I started doing text mining, and actually after 4 years managed to get a solution that would, if you went to Google and you said, I want to go back country skiing in California, it would give you all Heavenly and the commercial ski resorts. Whereas in my search engine, it would have read my blog where I like to actually hike up the mountain, like proof of work skiing, and then I'd ski down. And so it would match me with bloggers in the other parts of the world that were more relevant so I could get the local knowledge. But when I discovered Bitcoin, it was, I don't know if anybody was at the conference on Monday. These are magical events. So I was running an event called Barcamp Scotland in September 2010. And one of the speakers came along and put a thing on the board, Mark, an introduction to Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer decentralized currency. Well, my degree was in economics, and I'd written these papers about internet money and the future of money. So I got really excited and really went down the rabbit hole and it took many years. But what I really liked about the stories when I met the people like Adam that was on a couple of talks ago is like, it was like generations of effort. And I went all the way back to the publicly white papers to really understand, because I had these now 2 open source projects. It was called the Open Sport project, because I thought, your own content on the blog would be, personal to you. And I thought when the wearables and other IoT data came, they'd be more personal, so you would value that even more. I've been wrong on both counts, but I created a set of hardware which got me into soldering and stuff that allowed me to collect my swimming data and timing data, and then I developed a data science compute engine, and then some visualizations. But for the text mining and the data science thing, I was sitting there with a Raspberry Pi feeding multiple tablets and mobile phones in a swimming pool and wondering how I was going to connect all the other swimmers in the world together. And this is where I thought the insights of Satoshi would help me find that solution. And I don't think I'm quite there yet, but I will show you how far I've got. So I called this sort of way the Satoshi way. And it says transform my life, because there's still work to be done, but there's now a path to get to the solution. So I asked Stable Diffusion when Bitcoin meets the Internet of Data, and it gave me this this image, and I thought it was quite lazy because it was like the universe with a Bitcoin logo. But when I started to attend Bitcoin meetups in London, I think the first one was in a vaping store's spare room upstairs, and there was like 6 of us. We'd have these sociologists, PhD researchers, I think they'd maybe identified a new species of human, asking us what Bitcoin meant to us. And I thought, oh yeah, when you look out at nature, you've got the branching of trees, or in a shell, the spiral, or even the geometry of our heart. It's based on this thing called the Fibonacci sequence. So I see the Bitcoin ledger as the way for humanity to have its Fibonacci numbers for the digital world. And so while we're like a money-centric world, we have capital and interest, and then the nasty type, the compound. I think we're moving to this world where Bitcoin plus data flow. And so in Austrian economics, it's all the value, but that value is going to be represented in data. And if that data is not trustworthy and sovereign, how can we represent the value? So it's bringing these 2 things together. And if you deliver value, your Bitcoin will accumulate, and if you're not, it will decline. So most of us live in this world where we're 3rd-class data citizens, and this is a very painful example, unfair, painful example. So we've seen some open source models running this morning in the cloud, and this was a group, of open source Python developers that once GTP chat launched, they couldn't get access to the code, but from a conceptual re-engineering in their minds, they managed to replicate it. But unfortunately, 4 or 5 weeks ago, they just disappeared overnight. This was particularly painful because I'd used it to research a particular cancer and treatment and medical stuff to help a family member. So I felt like I'd been robbed. And so I didn't like that experience. And also in terms of the project, the demo, I was using a thing called Pandas AI. So I could take the data set from a spreadsheet CSV file and then do natural queries against it. All gone, no consultation, just gone. And I think that's, what the standard web stack, as I call it. So what's the improvement? Well, a 2nd-class data citizen is this example here, a wearable. So this wearable I have reversed engineered through a project called Gadget Bridge, which is the anarchist symbol. So we've gone together and said, we'll look at this device. Can we tinker with the Bluetooth to actually strip out our data and thus have sovereign control of it, in this case, a SQL file. But this is getting trickier and trickier because now they have Bluetooth authentication. So I at least have to go through that once before I get access to my data. But for the last, say, 10 years, it's given me at least some data to play around with the ideas of that we're going to come to. So what is a 1st-class data citizen? It's on my right arm. This is the Bangle 2. It came out of the Node.js community. So I have complete control over what's on the device. I can tell it how accurate it wants to be. I have permission to put other algorithms on it. So while in Gadget Bridge, I have to take what the manufacturer does, which is 4,000 data points a day. I could have up to 21,000 when I have sovereign control over the hardware. So really, to have sovereign data, we have to have sovereign hardware. And then once we've got the data, we can do some compute. So I created this thing that we'll talk a little bit more about called the Health Oracle Protocol. But even in the last month, in the Bitcoin community, there's been a white paper to allow any arbitrary computation to go through the Bitcoin scripting language. And then I have a little bit of a gripe. I have been through so many databases, from CouchDB to InfluxDB, and as the crypto world produces some solutions. But 4 years ago, the DAT project, which I used about a decade ago, came to sort of rejig itself around a protocol called Hypercore. And as Paolo did in his talk this morning, they just changed the data structure. And this is my gripe, or my ask of the data community, the Satoshi way. Satoshi agreed on a block size and the rules and the consensus, and we got going, and we make it backward compatible always. And we've just failed as a community to do this for data. And I think Hole Punch does give us a framework, but it's a tension of describing the data really accurately at one end, and another end being so free that it's meaningless. But if you want to structure and preserve data over time, we have to come to an agreement on what the data standards are. And so hopefully today and the weeks ahead, we can find that, and discussions are going on. And then back in July, it was like an early Christmas present. We started to get data-centric payment systems as the AI world and LND came with 402. So there's been a good lot of discussions about AI and bringing data, and I'll just let you tap into those. Yeah, so there is a community effort going. We've seen Spirits Associations, the SATS AI project. I'm actually asking for something more. I don't want to be a second-class large language model user customizing it with our content. I want to create foundational models with sovereign data from the get-go, which then we can fine-tune for all the use cases that our Bitcoin community need. So let's have a look at what this may look like. So I called it the Health Oracle Protocol because it's the use cases that are most interest to me. So it's been wearables, air quality data, and water data. But even in recent weeks, you know, the Bitcoin community, our sages, are pointing at the obvious that our medical system is equally as bad as our financial system. So I think there's a drive to expand our remit into this world too. So let's have a look at how that might work. So when you own your own data, you can do what I call Jackson Pollock aggregations. I've never seen this in any wearable app. So what I've done here is taken, I think, a week's worth of my heart data, and it's over 7 days, but just normalized it. And it's amazing how the trends stack up. I've actually done it for 90 days. But the point is I'm free to do whatever I want with it. And I can also mix it with the temperature in my room and see if there's correlation. If you're doing rainfall and river flow, you can slice and dice it. So this is all based on a hole punch. So I can take any of these boxes, which is the bento box, and network it to any other peer in the network. And what I heard today from these blind peers that was released in hole punch, then this will be the technology that we'll upgrade to in the weeks ahead. But of course, we're now entering this AI age. And so in the last year or so, we've been going from a rather clicky manual interface to a more free one where we can say, hello. And then the AI is called BB and say, we can just say chart 1, 2, 3. And then you can expand it out. And the concept of a bento box is that wherever historical data set, you can then make a prediction. The standard one and the thing is a linear regression. And you can save it to a space. Obviously, we have to contribute data, so we upload. You can drag and drop files. What I really want is all these sovereign apps to be authoring directly into Hole Punch, but for now, that's generally not the case. And uploading a file. But what I wanted to get to was the network library, which provides the standardization and the description of the data. It continually surprises me how difficult it is to describe the most simplest data set. So I've created this concept of a network library. So you describe the data types, and these are based on Wikipedia. You got your compute contract, which is just an observation, the data source, the visualization, which was charts. And then you have these modules, which I'm going to skip today because I want to talk about how does this thing actually work. So at the heart of this is a proof of work engine. So this big hash number here is the proof of work hash that I've actually taken in the source data and did the computation on it. And the second hash is the resulting data set. And it's these numbers that allow me to guarantee data interoperability across the network. Okay, 5 minutes. So the core problem that I set out in 2008 and then with the data science 2014 was not so much the proof of work consensus, but proof does it work. So when I was doing my swimming analytics, I was wanting to test whether my machine learning algorithm was creating a better training set than the human. So you enter the world of science and clinical trials. And I made some progress in that, but what you've just seen is the stage before proof does it work. Oh, sorry. I think I must be out of battery or something. So I'll just talk. So we've got proof of work and how the mechanism works. I think it's just battery. I have got 3 years of wearable data, and you've got 3 years of wearable data, and you've gone through the process I've just shown you. You then send out a hash as a proof of my work, and we reciprocate it, and then we do a random probability sample just to make sure our claims are true. Then we agree on the model. And that model then is applied to our data sets, and we'll get our linear regression, and then we use privacy preserving techniques to add up the model. So now we can then test that model to see whether the predictions that we've done combine our learning is better than the model that we didn't. So this is still experimental and novel, but I think it's in the ethos of the spirit of Satoshi. And so if we do have this oracle of our lives and previously preserved, I had a slide which showed the heat map showing the bit of data science on the history of the Bitcoin blockchain, which give you the $10, $20. So could you, as an oracle, get the price of US dollar conversion from the data analysis? And the answer is yes, because the consensus usually is that Oracle has to go out with the system. And I'm making the case that if this protocol comes to life, the Bitcoin ledger will now have a view in itself of all the information that we would need to govern ourselves. And this opens up new opportunities. Instead of having a medical life assurance market, we would have what I call a peer self-assurance market, where the peers would have self-custody of their funds at all time. But you can now add on the risk model, which will be open and transparent to the community, rather than today's world where we put in our premiums and we travel and they're rehypothecated out through reinsurance markets, and then when we actually need it, it disappears. So last couple of minutes. Yes, so to become a sovereign individual, we've still got a lot of work to do, but I think if we want to be agent in this AI dystopia that I see on our near shores, that's mission critical. We've got great skills and hardware now in the wallets and self-hosting. I think we can then combine with our cousins in the open hardware to produce the devices that are high quality and secure. And if we do that, we will have our own sovereign data, and we can then train that to the will of our community's values, and do it inspired by the Satoshi way. Thank you.
Thank you very much, James.
Yeah.